When 21-year-old Alice Sin disappeared, police believed her boyfriend was the last person to see her alive. She was 4 months pregnant and preparing to start a new chapter of her life. But within days, investigators started noticing something strange. Her boyfriend's story kept changing, and what they discovered next would turn a missing persons case into a murder investigation. This is the story of Alice Sin and the lies that eventually exposed a killer. In November 1999, Alice Sin was 21 years old, already raising a 1-year-old son and 4 months pregnant with her second child. Both children were fathered by her boyfriend, Raymond Wong, a man who would later become the center of a story far darker than anyone around them realized. To outsiders, their relationship looked normal, but depending on who you asked, the reality behind closed doors was very different. And over time, disturbing red flags would begin to surface. Alice was also a college student at Diablo Valley College in Pleasant Hill, California. Her story began years earlier, when her family immigrated from China in 1982. When Alice was just 4 years old, a sacrifice her parents made to give her a better future, a future that, tragically, would be cut short. According to friends and family, Alice wanted to build a better life for her children, giving them opportunities she believed were only possible because of the sacrifices her own parents had made. When she wasn't studying or caring for her young son, Alice enjoyed playing the piano, one of the few things she did purely for herself. As she prepared for the birth of her second child, those close to her said she seemed focused on creating stability for her growing family. But according to Alice, the child's father didn't share that same excitement. Raymond Wong, also an immigrant to California from Hong Kong, was described as intelligent and ambitious. At 28 years old, he had already graduated college, worked as a tech consultant, and owned multiple homes, outward signs of success that impressed many people around him. The two began dating while Alice was still in college. At first, their relationship appeared stable, but behind the scenes, cracks were already forming. Eventually, Alice would learn that Raymond had been seeing another woman, his 25-year-old on-again, off-again girlfriend, Jessica Tang. The tension between Alice and Jessica ran deep. The two women knew of each other, and by most accounts strongly disliked each other. Making the situation even more volatile was the fact that both women were pregnant with Raymond's child at the same time. After discovering Raymond had resumed seeing Jessica, Alice wrote him a letter. In it, she told him she knew about the relationship and that if they were going to raise their children, they needed to figure out how to move forward together. Unknown to Alice, that future would never happen. To outsiders, Raymond appeared successful and stable, a promising tech consultant with a bright future. But those closest to Alice saw something very different. Alice's father, Hua Sin, would later describe the relationship as toxic and at times violent. He recalled one incident in the fall of 1999 when Alice and Raymond came to help with projects around the family home. During the visit, an argument between the couple escalated into physical violence. Hua said he witnessed them choking each other while he screamed for them to stop and threatened to call police. In another incident, after a separate altercation, Hua found Alice alone at a nearby gas station. She told him she couldn't stand Raymond and that she wanted to leave him. According to Hua, Alice eventually dropped out of UC Davis after becoming pregnant. He also said Raymond initially questioned whether the baby was his. Family members would later say Alice told them Raymond did not want another child, referring to the baby she was carrying at the time she disappeared. Only 1 month before her disappearance, Alice made a decision investigators would later find deeply unsettling. She took out a $2 million life insurance policy, naming Raymond as the beneficiary. At the time, no one knew about the policy. It wouldn't come to light until after she vanished. Despite the turmoil in her relationship, Alice continued preparing for the future. She had a nearly 1-year-old child and another baby on the way. On November 21st, 1999, Alice was last seen leaving the home she shared with Raymond to buy a cake for her son's upcoming birthday. She was never seen alive again. The following day, Raymond reported Alice missing, triggering a search effort. Family and friends immediately told police that Alice loved her child and would never have abandoned him. 2 days later, police located Alice's car just half a mile from Raymond's home, parked in a shopping center lot. Inside the vehicle was paperwork connected to the $2 million life insurance policy she had applied for the month before. From that moment on, the case took a darker turn. 3 days after Alice disappeared, police searched Raymond's home. Inside the garage, they found Alice's clothes and personal belongings stuffed into trash bags. Investigators also discovered that Raymond's on-again, off-again girlfriend, Jessica Tang, had moved into the home. During a deeper search of the residence, police located a 9mm handgun. The following day, the insurance company denied the $2 million policy Alice had applied for. By this point, investigators were heavily focused on Raymond. Police asked him to take a polygraph test, and he agreed. They asked him 2 questions. Do you know what happened to Alice? Are you lying about what happened to Alice? The results indicated deception on both answers. Before investigators could fully connect Raymond to Alice's murder, he was released from prison. Soon after, he violated state sex offender registration laws and fled the United States, returning to China. For the next 3.5 years, Raymond remained overseas. As time passed, Alice's case grew colder. Nearly a decade would go by before investigators would finally get another major break. And ironically, that break would come from Raymond himself. At some point, Raymond contacted both the CIA and FBI, claiming he wanted to work as a spy for the United States. He told authorities he had been approached by Chinese intelligence and wanted to act as a double agent. He claimed he needed to prove he could travel in and out of the United States freely. But when Raymond arrived at San Francisco International Airport using a fake passport, he was arrested. With Raymond back in custody, investigators realized they had a limited window of time to build their case. One detective decided to reach out to someone from Raymond's past, Jessica Tang. By this time, Jessica and Raymond were no longer together and had lost contact. After several days of intense questioning, Jessica finally broke and revealed what she said happened the day Alice disappeared. Jessica told investigators that Raymond had convinced both women to take a trip together to the Nevada desert. According to Jessica, Raymond told each woman a different story, convincing them that the other planned to harm them. But Jessica later said the real plan had been to kill Alice all along. Jessica claimed she sat in the back seat while Alice and Raymond argued during the drive. When they arrived in the desert, Raymond got out of the vehicle. Alice followed, and the argument continued outside the car. Jessica said Raymond then opened the trunk and pulled out a firearm. He began shooting Alice. Jessica told investigators that Raymond then forced her out of the back seat and ordered her to shoot Alice as well. Jessica said she turned her head away, closed her eyes, and pulled the trigger out of fear. Jessica told investigators she returned to the car while Raymond remained in the desert, continuing what she described as behavior similar to the violent fantasies he had watched in his collection of videos. According to investigators, Alice's body was mutilated. Monopoly money was placed around her, with white supremacist initials written across the bills. An apparent attempt to mislead police into believing the killing was connected to a hate group. In the days that followed, Raymond allegedly sent a message to local news outlets attempting to support that false narrative. But investigators were able to trace the IP address used to send the message. The trail led them to an internet cafe, placing Raymond there while he was traveling for business. As investigators continued building their case, More digital evidence was discovered on Raymond's home computer. Search history showed he had looked up directions to remote areas of the Nevada desert. Records showed he had contacted multiple gun stores. Investigators also found searches related to 2 different white supremacist groups, further supporting the theory that Raymond had attempted to stage the crime scene. With the growing mountain of evidence, investigators were finally able to move forward. Raymond Wong was arrested and charged with the murder of Alice Sin. Jessica Tang later pleaded guilty to being a conspirator after the fact. Due in part to serious cardiac health issues, she was sentenced to 5 years of felony probation. Her testimony ultimately became a critical part of the prosecution's case. Raymond Wong was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to 50 years to life in prison. For Alice's family and friends, the verdict brought a complicated mix of relief and grief. They were grateful to see the man responsible for her death held accountable, but they continued mourning the life Alice should have had and the future she and her children were denied. When the verdict was read, members of Alice's family broke down in tears. Her father later said, "I raised my daughter for 18 years, and he had her for 2 years and she's gone. He's an animal." Alice's story remains a reminder of how quickly violence can hide behind the appearance of normal life, and how long families can wait for justice.